Well, hello, folks. Welcome to Miyagi Mornings, episode 122, Knowing Why You Believe What You Believe. And this is one of my tenets, one of my laws of life. I've taught this one way or another over and over again since 2008 when I started my podcast. I'll never stop teaching it. It is the vaccine to one of the most insidious viruses infecting the world. The virus known as ignorant ignorance, or maybe a better term would be unconscious ignorance. See, there's two real types of ignorance in the world. There's conscious ignorance and there's unconscious ignorance. I guess there's ignorant ignorance would really be the things you don't know that you can't possibly know because no one's thought of them yet, right? Throw that out. But what I mean when I say conscious ignorance is I'm ignorant when it comes to, let's say, exactly how to build Elon Musk's starship that will eventually travel to Mars. I don't know how to do it, and I know I don't know how to do it. There's certain things and parts of it that I understand the basic physics behind it, but I don't know how to build it. I couldn't for the life of me begin to explain to you, starting from, okay, we have raw material, let's turn it into starship. And I know that. And then there's unconscious ignorance. Believing that you know about a thing that you've made a decision on and not knowing that you're ignorant about it. And that is at an all-time high in the world today. And it's due to mostly politicalization of issues that shouldn't be political. Like how to treat a virus, whether or not a vaccine is safe. All of these things have become politicized. And I want you to think about something, though. If you have two views of a thing, and they're mostly in opposition to each other, even if the truth is somewhere sort of kind of in the middle, one of those diametrically opposed positions will be the more correct position. You're flipping up a coin, right? So you could end up with the people that are on, let's say, the liberal side of the position just being on the side that ends up being right, or the conservative side of the issue just ending up being on the side that's being right. So you can be right, mostly right, still have no idea why you're right. And that's almost as bad as being wrong and having no idea why you're wrong. Because what this does, the cancer that it really is, it's this illness that exists in society that makes us coming together and discussing our differences impossible. It's impossible. If you don't know why you believe what you believe, you can't explain it to somebody. You're going to fall back on catchphrases and this person said so. You're not going to be able to articulate the reasoning behind your stance, and therefore you're not going to be able to understand the reasoning behind the other person's stance, assuming they're actually informed and they have any idea why they believe what they believe. Only when we come together with a true understanding of the issue and why we believe what we believe can we have a discussion where we might have more discovery as to greater truth. And we don't have that. Now, this is an interesting thing, though. The way I got this topic today is a question that doesn't sound like it's actually about the subject, but it is. The question was, how do you mentally and emotionally deal with family and loved ones who have become woke obsessed? They're the woke, critical race theory, women who aren't women that are actually men that dress like women, that take hormones and live like women, competing in girls' sports and destroying women's sports and girls' sports, and they think that's okay. Like people like that. That's what I'm getting out of that term, woke obsessed. Not only do they buy into it, but like it becomes the most important thing in their life. Well, if I only answered that, it'd be pretty short, because here's what it is. You have exactly one person in the whole world, in fact, in the whole universe, or even in the multiverses, you have one person where you can control what that person thinks, how that person feels, and what they do with the information given to them. One, and that's you. So how do you deal with another person's thoughts, how they handle their information, their emotions, and what they think? You don't. You don't deal with it. You don't entertain it. You don't worry about it. Because you should not worry about that which you do not control. I can't control what my wife believes or thinks. Now, we have different varying levels of interest in deep issues. My interest is much deeper than hers as a general principle, where her interest is deep at a specific time to a specific thing. So where I guess you would say I'm like the person that's well-read, right? Well-informed. Like, and it's not just because I'm a podcaster. Like, this is a personality trait innate to me. I was the kid that, we're going to have science class. Okay, so I'll read the science book. Like, the whole book in the first week or two. And, like, the whole book wasn't even covered in the class. And, like, I'm done. I just give me the test and I'll take it. Not just because I was smart, but because I had this innate curiosity. Science was interesting, so let me learn more about it. History was interesting. I read the whole book. I did this starting about 5th or 6th grade. I would get a class and a textbook and I'd read it. And then I would make notes, but they weren't normal notes, right? They weren't like, oh, I need this for a test. It was like, these are things I want to know more about. And then I would do independent research before there was an internet. It was so damn easy as to these other things that I wanted to know about. Who was this person? Was this person, like this person sounds way too good to be true. Were there any flaws in this person? And I would go to the library and I would look up information, which is mostly found in like encyclopedias, because that's how old I am. And I would form this broader knowledge. And then I would be like, well, that is about this particular time in history. And there's no more real information that's specific to this thing I want to know more about. Maybe I should read a book that was set in this time in history. Because now it's less controlled. It's more just about how somebody looked at it. And so I have this broad depth of knowledge. My wife's like, I don't care. All right? But what will happen is something will pop up and she'll have an interest in it. Because we respect each other, I can give her information, but I still don't control her conclusions or her emotions or what she decides to do after she makes her conclusion. And that's my wife. So if I don't control how my wife feels about and uses the information we discuss, who the hell do I control? No one else. I didn't control my son when he was a child and lived under my roof to that level, nor did I wish to, because then I would be raising a child versus raising an adult, okay? And that's your job as parents, by the way, to raise adults, not to raise children. If you raise a child, look what you've done. If you raise an adult, good on you, right? A little thought there. Maybe we'll do an episode on that one day. So I don't control them. I don't control my grandchildren now, even though we're homeschooling them. I control their study habits to a degree. I control their effort to a degree in that if you don't put the effort in, then you have restrictions in your life that you don't like. So I create motivation. But I don't control that he's really into, like, my grandson's into big cats. I don't have to do anything to get him to learn more about leopards and jaguars and stuff like that. All I have to do to, like, encourage it at all is ask him a question that he doesn't know the answer to and walk away. Because that's how people operate. Okay? So I can't control any of those people. But yet, I think I'm going to control my Wokenista family member or loved one. You can't. So the answer is you don't do anything. However, if you want to have a constructive conversation with that person and have them understand where you're coming from, and you understand where they come from, you also don't control the fact that they may not really know why they believe what they believe. But they may actually know some things that have led them in that direction that you don't. And those things might be true. Believe it or not. Even about something like critical race theory. Now, I agree, before anybody loses their minds in some of the things I'm about to say, critical race theory is being used as a Trojan horse to get inside our schools and teach cultural Marxism to our children. I know why I believe that, by the way. I also do not believe that everything that comes from the world of critical race theory is incorrect. And I wonder how many people have this knee-jerk reaction to critical race theory on either side that literally know nothing about what it actually is or what it actually says. I'm going to ask you honestly, and I want you to answer this for yourself. You can put it in the comments if you want, but I don't need it. It's more important you ask for yourself. What do you actually know, not think, know about critical race theory, the theory? Not what's being done with it in the schools, not how it's being presented, but the actual underlying, don't scream 1619 Project, because it's a different thing. Critical race theory. How much have you read about it? What do you know? One of my good friends in the world, John Willis, I remember one time video totally unrelated to something like this he was talking about. But he's like, if you take people that are polarized on any issue, no matter what it is, and you say sit down and write down everything you know, not you think, you know about this issue, most of those people would end up staring stupidly at a blank piece of paper because they don't know anything. Because he was talking underlying facts, not talking points, not slogans, not catchphrases, underlying facts. So here's an underlying fact about critical race theory that states there are structural things that have resulted in inequality over time in the world of the United States of America between black and white people. That is a true statement. Now, how much it still affects us today is debatable, but it ain't slavery. And there are people alive that were alive when it was going on. So at one time, not that long ago, we're talking like 30s, 40s, there were places that were predominantly occupied by black people, neighborhoods that were predominantly black neighborhoods. And through mechanisms of control of government-assisted loans and the banking industry, they were labeled as high-risk areas for getting your money back if you issued a mortgage there. Now, this wasn't directly, black people don't get mortgages. It's where the black people mostly live, we don't do mortgages. Now, that is structural. And one of the components of critical race theory is that you can be participating in something that disadvantages one race over the other without being aware of it. Hold on to that thought, because there's some shit going on right now. Okay? Flips that around. But that happened. So that created an entire generation that were regulated to renting or not being able to harvest equity in their home to improve it. And it further ingrained poverty within the black community. That all happened. Does that happen now? No. But how long does it take to recover from generational poverty? 1, 2, 3 generations? I did it in 1. I come from a poor family. I got no assistance from my family. No one helped me. And in 1 generation, I went from being a poor-ass kid that it was the son of a bootleg coal miner. You want to talk about broke? Bootleg coal miner does not equal wealthy. And in 1 generation, I did it. But I will acknowledge it wasn't easy. And I will acknowledge not everybody could have done it. And I will acknowledge that somewhere along the way, I had some lucky breaks. But I also took advantage of them. And I can't say for a fact that some of the people that helped me along the way may not have chosen to help me had I been a black man. I don't know. Knowing the people that I can think of that had the most influence on my life, I'd like to believe they would have. One of my greatest mentors along the way, a man that taught me so much about communications and putting proposals together and was like kind of like a hero to me, was a guy named Ron. Guess what? He was black. So I figured he would have helped me. Would I have gotten to him? I don't know. Have I helped anybody along the way that was black? Yeah. Have I employed more white people than black people? Yep. Do you know why? More white people applied for the jobs. Plain and simple. When I got into a position where I was hiring people at kind of upper level, I just had more applicants. Does that make me part of the problem? The truth is, I don't really know. All I know is I was trying to go along to get along and survive the way that I was trying to go along to get along. This doesn't mean that we should start teaching our children that white people are oppressors. But it also doesn't mean that we should totally disavow that there's any structural problems in our society today that may turn around and actually harm people due to the color of their skin. In fact, you could be participating in a system that, punishes people for the color of their skin without realizing that's what you're doing. Like claiming that anybody that was white has an inherent advantage in society and is not really earned what they've acquired? That they somehow owe it to somebody else just because they happen to have been born white? See, this goes both ways. So if you were actually trying to solve structural problems, you would actually discuss structural problems. And this is what people like myself who say there may be some truth in here, because we're actually informed, know the things I'm talking about. But where is it today? Where is it today? And let's talk about that. Not some shit that happened 250 years ago. Let's talk about the problem today. Well, blah, 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 people of color. No. We have to know why we believe what we believe. So let us discuss this problem. Which problem are we discussing? How do we fix it? When you have somebody saying, well, like the President of the United States saying black people don't have accountants and lawyers. This should be the most insulting thing that black people ever heard. However, the truth, even within the dementia, could be that there are segments of the black community that would have a very difficult time even knowing how to get in touch with. But there would be white people that have that problem too. There'd be Hispanic people that have that problem too. That are so poor, so broke, they're just not sure how to start. Where to start. Who to contact. See, that's a structural problem. And it may, if we figured out like all the people who want to try and have that problem, you may find that group is made up disproportionately of blacks or Hispanics or whites. But it's still the same problem. So you build the solution to the problem. This requires knowing why you believe what you believe and focusing on the actual problem. You can look at any place that we divide society, and there's another hot button issue today, would be the treatment of COVID-19 through the use of alternative treatments, which should be mainstream treatments in my opinion, such as hydroxychloroquine. Why do I believe hydroxychloroquine can be used to treat COVID-19? Why? Well, not because some guy said so. Not because, eventually we got a half-assed well-done trial that says so. Because I understand the biochemical means by which it works. I understand that HCQ is an ionophore for zinc, and if you put zinc inside the human cell, it slows down or essentially shuts down the replication of mRNA replicating viruses. I know this is real science. I know this is how this works, and I know for that to work, you would have to give the medication before the virus had done the damage. Because people dying of COVID-19 in hospitals are not dying of a virus. They're dying of the damage the virus has done. The virus has already run its course when most of these people are expiring. You can wipe the virus out, and that person still has massive lung damage, dry pneumonia, blood clotting, right? If I want to treat somebody for infection, and they've been shot with a shotgun, antibiotics will treat the infection, but it won't fix the damage. What I want to do is put a bulletproof vest on them before they get shot. Why does ivermectin work? I don't know. And I know that I don't know. But looking at the body of empirical evidence and observational evidence of medical doctors who have used it, the preponderance of the evidence is that it works. Do I know this? No, but I believe this and I know why I believe it. Because the data directs that it makes sense. I do not understand the biological mechanism by which it would work, assuming that it does. And the doctors using it don't either. They haven't gotten that far yet. Do you know where ivermectin comes from? It comes from one spot near a golf course in Japan. It's the only place that it's ever been found in the world. And it is considered one of the miracle drugs of society. I know that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are safe to take as medications. Whether they work or not for COVID, that's a different question. I know they're safe. Why do I know they're safe? Because they've both been with us for more than 70 years. They both have very low incidences of side effects or problems, unless they're like massively overdosed, which you can massively overdose somebody with an apple. Right? You could massively overdose somebody with apple seeds and kill them. But we don't say that apple seeds are dangerous inherently of themselves. See how simple this is? This is not hard to understand. So I know that it's safe. I know that hydroxychloroquine is safe because in over 70% of the world, you can walk into the equivalent of an Eckerd Drugs and buy it over the counter without a prescription. And we don't have people dying from it. So when the establishment told us early on it was extremely dangerous to take, I didn't think I knew that was a lie. So since I knew it, I also believed it. We can believe something and know something. We can believe something and not know something. We can either be Gnostic to it. Gnostic means knowing, having knowledge of the thing, and hence the belief. We can be agnostic. I don't know, but the evidence indicates, so I've chosen this belief. If we could get society to think this way, and here's the important thing. Let's say somebody turns you on to this video, and you disagree with my conclusions. It's okay. It's okay. But the only way we could discuss the disagreement productively is for us to know why we believe what we believe. And I'll end with this. The only way I believe that you can know why you believe what you believe is to be able to argue the counter argument intelligently. You have to actually research something to the point where, okay, I know what I inherently believe. I know what my prejudice is, my life experience, my bias, my perception, my innate knowledge, my long-term gain knowledge. I know where I come down initially. And if it makes you more comfortable, you can dig in there first. And then once you're sure you know, then you have to go over to the other side and say, imagine I'm an attorney and I'm trying to represent my client even though I know he's guilty. Or I think he's guilty. I still have to try to prove to a jury beyond that there's reasonable doubt to his guilt. So I have to use everything that I can to make that case, or I'm not doing my job. If I can't do that, I should step aside and say I cannot represent this person. Right? Makes perfect sense. That's what you have to do. To know why you believe what you believe, you have to research the other side's argument and fully understand it. And then you still have to be willing to have a conversation with them that says, present your argument. And what you'll end up is having a discussion, if you've done this, assuming the other person's not fully informed, that's very judo-like. It's actually more like Sistema, like Russian Sistema. It's just kind of like they can't get a grip on you. And it's very frustrating for them. And you have two things you can do then. You can be productive with it, or you can be destructive with it. If you're just trying to prove your point, just prove you're right, you're destructive. If you're trying to lead them somewhere. And the best way to lead somebody somewhere is, well, why? But why? Well, how does that work exactly? Give me an example. Let them tell you their side of the argument. Listen more and speak less. Because a lot of these arguments are so flawed that the more the person says their words, the more they realize how ridiculous their argument is. And when their argument is, well, everybody knows. Well, how does everybody know? Well, so-and-so says. Great. Why should we listen to that person? What are they basing that on? The science. Well, what is the science? If you want to deal with them at all, start with dealing with yourself. And then if you want to discuss it, that's how you have a discussion. That's all I got for you on this one. I'll catch up with you tomorrow with another episode of Miyagi Mornings.